Hi everyone, that's me. I don't know this yet, but this video is about to mark the end of my entire YouTube career as a whole. Let's just quickly fast forward through the days of editing, and here's the moment where it all went wrong. You see, I thought this would be a good clickbaity title to get the video views, not even really resembling the opinions stated in the video, to be honest. But all it did was absolutely infuriate everyone. Okay, that's enough. Pause. Let's go back to the beginning. A simpler time. So remember when I was going to theoretically make one Barbie video back in January? Welcome to part 3. Now, today I'm finally going to weigh in on one of the biggest debates within the Barbie community. Are the new movies worse than the old ones? And by debate, I mean just general agreed upon consensus. But here's the thing. You're all nostalgic for the Barbie movies you grew up watching, and therefore are inevitably going to view the newer ones in a more negative light since you're no longer the target demographic. I, however, being the world's leading expert on the Barbie movies, can provide a completely impartial opinion and tell you the truth you're all too afraid to hear. The new movies are... Actually, before I finish that thought, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Opinion Outpost. Now, if you don't know, Opinion Outpost is a website where you can fill out surveys and simply give your opinions on things as a way to make money. Whether you need some money to help start up a YouTube channel and buy yourself some better equipment, or, just to rationalize having 6 different video streaming services, I see you, we've all been there, and Opinion Outpost is an extremely easy service to use, as in, you can literally just do a survey while watching your new favorite Barbie movie, or something, I don't know, and simply put, with every survey you complete, you get these points, then you can cash out those points for money directly to PayPal or Amazon gift cards. Meaning, immediately after you finish the movie, you could literally go out and buy the toys and dolls that have been subliminally advertised to you. So make sure to check it out in the link in the description down below. It's completely free to use and would help out the channel a lot. And thank you, Opinion Outpost, for sponsoring the Barbie movie show. Please note that this title is still under consideration and may change dependent of fan response. Where was I? Oh yes, new Barbie movies versus old Barbie movies. Only question is, which two do I compare? I'm not really sure where the line is drawn between where the new Barbie movies start and the old Barbie movies end, because they kind of just consistently made these movies for 16 consecutive years. Did everyone just one day decide, okay, this movie is new and bad and not like the one from last year, which was old and good? I'm genuinely asking, is that what happened one year? So to avoid any potential of someone complaining about that, the new movie I'm going to be covering is Barbie and Chelsea: The Lost Birthday, which literally came out 2 weeks ago as of recording this video. And since it partially takes place on an island and has a talking elephant, there's only one movie that can make an effective comparison to this, and also just because a lot of people have requested I cover this one. Barbie as the Island Princess. And fight! Okay. I'm sorry about that, that was slightly extreme. Let's try and resolve this dispute with words. And to start, I need to point out the glaringly obvious truth that the modern animation style of The Lost Birthday is much easier to look at. Up until this point, I've been very justifiably critical of the animation in the Barbie movies and how they just can't get motion right. Even for the early 2000s, this is embarrassingly mechanical. And in a way, I feel like they were self-aware of this. They knew this was their weakness, so in films like The Princess and the Pauper, limited the amount of action, trying to keep the story more dialogue heavy. But in The Island Princess, it was as if they were trying to rub it in our faces how little they've improved. All of these clips are just from the first 5 minutes of the film. Alternatively, The Lost Birthday actually looks good. So at some point in the 14 years between these films, they must have worked out how to animate characters without it looking, well, But with that said, I did feel like they were really forcing that there's technology now, which is apparently just a theme with new Barbie movies. They're not taking place in medieval times. It's just full-on iPhones and iPads and non-Apple products, which just feels like a huge, this is taking place during the present day. It's current and relevant. We know what you like, kids. Anyway, on to the stories. As I kind of covered earlier, they both revolve around a Barbie doll character and a bunch of talking animals on an island, and to be honest, that's all the similarities that they have, actually. The Island Princess revolves around this girl called Ro, and I'm trying to withhold my complaints about how they all look like Barbie dolls. I do get that's the point, but she's lived on an island almost her entire life. She's basically tribal and somehow always has makeup on her face. I mean, God forbid it go against the Barbie brand, and maybe I'm missing something. Do point it out if I'm being ignorant here, but surely, just for this one movie, for this one character, they could have just had her not wear makeup. I mean, maybe that's too progressive for 2007 to expect women in movies to actually look like real women, but I'm just saying. Anyway, she's shipwrecked on an island and has forgotten about her life before she got there until these colonizers, who are the good guys because one of them's the prince, and he sings this happy song about how much he loves discovering, invading, and conquering new places, and makes Ro come back with him to his kingdom, but he's the good guy, so it's fine. On the other hand, The Lost Birthday actually has the Barbie in the film, but it doesn't really revolve around her, as it's actually about her sister, Chelsea, the other person whose name is in the title. And they're out on a cruise ship for a family holiday, which just so happens to coincide with her 7th birthday, but when her parents, and yes, this is a real plot point, forget they're crossing the international date line the night before her birthday, meaning they lose that day, she runs away and zip lines off the boat onto an island to have this adventure to learn the true meaning of friendship or family or something like that. Basically, these films have the exact same plot, just in reverse, which is kind of poetic if you really want it to be. However, before I get into full flow with this onslaught, I need to address that the Island Princess's soundtrack is actually surprisingly good. As in, there's genuinely some decent songs with what could have been the makings of a good musical in there, but I stress in the makings of, because I felt half the songs either end up conveying the same tone and message as another song that came 10 minutes before it, or even worse, contradicting a song that came 10 minutes before it. Like, you have this musical number where Rose sings about how great her life with her talking animal friends on this island is and how she never wants to leave, only for literally 10 minutes later her to leave the island singing about, where did I come from? I need to find out about my life before I got on this island. And this is also a duet with the prince, but they both sing this in their heads, I think, as in their mouths don't move for the entirety of the song. This is the real unaltered footage. I do not get what's going on. Why aren't they singing? Or are they singing? What is going on? Please explain to me what this means. But with that said, this is some high-level criticism, and it's not supposed to take away from the fact it still does have a good soundtrack. Definitely better than The Lost Birthday, but sorry saying much because The Lost Birthday isn't a musical, despite having an absolute certified bop of a song called Make a New Day, which this entire scene, and this is saying something, is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a film. They all just kind of randomly break into song, like in complete music video style. I guess the plan was to make a music video in the film that they could go and upload to YouTube and bring in views and help promote the movie or something, but it's so out of place and doesn't even remotely fit in with the rest of the story and hardly serves a narrative purpose beyond introducing a new character. It's just like, let's break into a musical number because we can, and then they just get back to what they were doing afterwards like nothing happened. But it's also an annoyingly catchy pop song, so I'll allow it. And while I'm happy to admit there are a lot of things these films did well, there's also a lot of things that just don't make any sense, because I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, Barbie movies do not know how to write interesting characters. That's just the main characters. Ro is maybe the most bland character imaginable, except for all the other main characters in all the other Barbie movies I've seen. They're all just vanilla, and I kind of get it. It's very common in movie to have a pretty surface level main character as a vessel to explore the world through, and I guess you could make the argument that makes these older films easier to enjoy for people of all ages. Chelsea, on the other hand, is a 7-year-old girl. Well, 6, kind of. She's turning 7. It doesn't really matter. The point is, she acts like a 7-year-old girl, constantly trying to show how big and grown up she is, doing dangerous things. Peer acceptance becomes more, okay, I am literally just reading this off a WebMD article about 7-year-old child developmental milestones. But honestly, I want proof that the writers of this film didn't just base her character off this article, because they've got it to a T. Sorry, I still haven't made the point yet that it very much feels like this movie is only meant to be watched by other 7-year-old girls who can relate to this character. From on the nose,
little kids can get big things done,
to her animal friends who have one personality trait each, and they all have the courtesy to explain what that trait is when we first meet them.
Helping's what I live for.
And they all just agree on everything and help each other reach their shared goal, which was really just Chelsea's goal, with no real obstacles. And I don't really know what the point was other than the fact they all learnt something, and they all tell us what they individually learned.
All I wanted was to help. But you showed me that sometimes letting someone do things on their own is the best way to help.
And then there's the humor. Don't even get me started. They try so hard to be funny, and it's just so dry. At least the other Barbie movies don't try to be funny. I never realized this was a positive before now, but I hope the 7-year-olds enjoyed it, because this has no rewatchability once you're beyond that age. And I genuinely couldn't put myself in Chelsea's shoes on one occasion, which made me respect the characters like Ro and pretty much all the characters from all the other Barbie movies a whole lot more, because while I didn't think the characters from Island Princess were great or really developed much beyond a few conversations, at least they had their own personal ambitions which are allowed to contradict what someone else wants, meaning there's actual conflict. And the elephant even kind of has a rushed character arc in there, which honestly, that's about as good as it gets. We've got to applaud this when we get the chance. However, the character that disappointed me the most was the evil queen. Not to be confused with the good queen, who isn't even that good. She's just like not evil. That's the standard we're working with. You know, just forget about her. The evil queen disappointed me a lot, because so far it's the villains in these movies that have really been a saving grace and kept the story watchable at times. But Queen Ariana, despite having the best musical number in the film in my opinion, has nothing to her, as in this introduction scene is all you need to know.
Could have found me a bigger room.
Oh, it's fine, Mother.
I think you get it. I mean, apparently she has this huge evil plan for revenge to get the king back for ruining her life, and is therefore marrying her daughter to his son so she can kill him and become the queen of his kingdom by poisoning the wedding cake using this magic dust she just so happens to be carrying around. And like, I've said this before, I can get my head around magic being used in movies if it's established as part of the story, but this is the only instance of magic in the entire movie, and it's purely there for plot convenience and to help the story go forward. You know what? It makes less sense the more you think about it. It doesn't work out, she gets caught, and we're moving on, because she was made to look like a masterpiece next to the activities director. Like, I don't know if you've heard of Protagonist Syndrome. I'm not actually sure if it's a real thing, I just see people talk about it on Twitter, which you should go follow me, by the way, and Instagram as well. If you're watching right now, you're in this for the long haul. You've got to like all my posts on all my social medias from this moment onwards. I don't make the rules. Anyway, Protagonist Syndrome is used to describe someone who seems to believe they're the main character in life. You know, just a very self-centered person, seems to think the world revolves around you, and this guy, I think he has Antagonist Syndrome. He seems to be aware that he's in a film and is supposed to be playing the part of a bad guy, so therefore is unnecessarily throwing hurdles at the main characters throughout the story. There's no backstory or development into why he is the way he is is. And all in all, the characters weren't great, but I guess a point goes to the island. I don't know when I started doing points, but if I was, all of you at home rooting for the Island Princess, which I know is most of you, should have just gone like, yeah, go team. Anyway, moving on, because I'm very excited about this. As these Barbie videos start growing into more of a series, you know, you've got the Disney sequel show and then the spin-off Barbie movie show. That's not the official title yet. Don't get attached. And right now is a big moment, because we've got our first segment. I don't know, I just keep noticing when watching these films that they seem to set up these storylines and then never go through with them or have the most anticlimactic conclusion ever. I'm not sure if this is like a well-documented trope of Barbie movies, but even if it is, it's time for Unfinished Storyline. We'll make a jingle in the next episode. First, Ro being able to speak to animals when no one else in the universe can. The prince does try, but... And you'd think that this might play into the story somehow. Maybe her having this ability makes all the difference in a big twist, no. Its only purpose is for half of her scenes to consist of animals saying, "Oh my god, you can understand us?" Okay, that happens like 3 times, but it's still too many. And then with The Lost Birthday, Barbie is a vlogger now. The film literally opens with a scene of Barbie vlogging, and I was so excited to finally get some vlogging representation on the big screen or, you know, Netflix. And then it doesn't come back at any point in the story. So why? What was the point of this? Was this a reference to another film or just throwing technology in our face? Because I've already covered I don't like that. Back to the Island Princess. The king strongly disapproves of the prince marrying Ro for the entire film. It's basically his entire character, and it kind of makes sense. You know, the prince has to marry a princess for prosperity or something. That's how royal kingdoms work. But for some reason, when Ro walks in at the ball, because you know how there's always a ball the Barbie has to dress up for? Yeah, suddenly after that, he seems to think that maybe she's okay, so I guess you don't have to be a princess if you're pretty. That's the rules. And of course, at the end, he really uncharacteristically goes against everything he stood for by letting his son marry her, which I guess you could argue that's his character arc. You know, he learned his son should marry who he loves rather than forcing him to wed a princess. And I'd be inclined to agree if they'd actually stuck with this message, but for some reason, there's a complete minor and irrelevant storyline about Ro trying to find her real family. And by minor, I mean she asks a horse if it knows who her family is because its carriage has the same flag that washed up on the shore when Ro arrived at the island. It says no, and that's it. For the entire film until a minute after the king agrees to let them marry. Because the queen of that place where the horse was from just so happened to be at this wedding and also just so happened to lose her daughter at sea 10 years ago, and that daughter was called Rosalina. Rosalie. She was a princess all along. Oh, look, the title makes sense now. So in conclusion, the king's character arc meant nothing, but at least Ro gets to meet her mother and doesn't really say much to her, to be honest, so it was all meaningless. Back to the lost birthday, because while Chelsea is out having her adventure, making friends and looking for a gemstone, I didn't get into that, it's not very interesting. Her sisters are also simultaneously out on the island looking for her since she ran away, but they don't actually know she's on the island, they just assume she is. And it's just the most pathetic attempt at a side story to try and give them something to do, despite the fact we know they're never actually going to find Chelsea because she's got to work it out on her own. So in the meantime, they get stuck in poisonous flowers, put oatmeal on themselves to stop the itching, then seagulls attack them, they run away and get caught in quicksand. They don't find her. Matter of fact, Chelsea never even left the cruise ship, apparently. It was all a dream, or an imaginary scenario in her head, or was it? It's actually very unclear. After all that time I spent making fun of this film for being for kids, I'm not sure I really got it, but I don't really want to waste any more energy thinking about it. And in conclusion, the title's a lie. I don't think the new movies are exactly better, but I also don't think they're worse. They both serve the same purpose of making a fun animation movie around Barbie dolls with the hope of subliminally advertising the products to children, and they do a good job at that. I'll tell you, by the end of The Lost Birthday, I wanted one of those Barbie cruise ship toys, much more than I ever wanted a castle or a palace from one of the other movies, but I don't know where to find them. Please help me. The only real major difference between these two types of movies is that they're targeted at different generations of kids. A movie without modern technology where a girl just so happens to stumble into a kingdom and meet a prince who wants to marry her just isn't the done thing anymore. Not even by Disney. I mean, have you seen their last 5 princess movies? Because I haven't. I've counted 1, at a stretch 2 marriages, with one of them being off screen. And neither of those weddings involve princes, which is essentially my entire point. The new Barbie movies aren't worse, they're just different. And I'm glad there are so many people who can find joy in the old Barbie movies, whether that's nostalgia, watching them growing up, or just genuinely thinking they're cinematic masterpieces. And I'm glad there are people who are enjoying the new Barbie movies right now. Okay, I've just gone full Hufflepuff here. Let's just quit this video while I'm ahead. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and leave a comment down below about what Barbie movie I should cover next. Top comment wins. I'm not necessarily going to do the top comment, but you've got a better chance if you get the top comment. So best of luck, and go subscribe to my channel by clicking here, watch another video by clicking here, check out my Patreon here and in the description down below, and thanks for watching. I'm really bad at outros, or am I really good? It's unclear.